Last Concola, I want to speak to Amendment 59, Dignified Disposal. The content of the amendment itself covers two distinct but related areas: the disposal of fetal remains, as well as the protection of such remains from sale or unlawful experimentation. And before people start, attempting to undermine us here, right? Will I start again? Okay. Will I start again?
No, continue. Which now, deputies, Deputy McGrath, without interruption.
What we might call the first half of the amendment introduces a statutory and regulatory requirement to provide for dignified disposal of bodily remains of fetuses, which have been the subject of terminations of pregnancy, including the dignified disposal of ashes generated by the cremation of such remains in accordance with subhead 2. It also proposes that the bodily remains of a fetus which has been the subject of a termination of pregnancy shall be disposed of only by way of Iverahane, burial in a burial ground for the purposes of Section 34 of the Local Government Sanitary Services Act 1948, or Iverado, cremation carried out in a crematorium. The amendment is absolutely clear that the pregnant woman who has been the subject of the relevant termination of pregnancy shall be entitled to choose the manner of the disposal of the bodily remains of the fetus, subject to regulation made by the Minister, and shall be, as I said, entitled to choose the manner of disposal of the bodily remains of a fetus, subject to regulation made by the Minister. In the event that the woman declines to choose the manner of the dignified disposal of the remains in question, the Minister, pursuant to subhead 1, shall provide for the manner of the dignified disposal of the bodily remains of the fetus. It is our hope, or signature of this amendment, that these provisions achieve a sensitive and appropriate balance between the rights of the woman to determine the manner of a dignified disposal with the right of the unborn child to a dignified resting place. And this amendment seeks to bring the legislation actually almost similar to the UK, in fact quite milder than what it is in the UK. And it brings all about a dignity of the remains. And indeed, I don't know why there'd be any controversy, and there was before committee and the media, and they were hijacked and were accused of every kind of a thing. We merely sought to have a dignified, respectful ending of the life of the baby, and indeed a dignified disposal. We saw during the referendum all the different allegations about how distressing it was for mothers to have to bring back their baby in a box and God knows what, whatever. That's all we wanted, was to have respectful, no more, no less. We weren't trying to impose anything on anyone or trying to be debasing anyone or undermining anybody. And I couldn't understand when there was such a frenzy in the media and such frenzy from some members in here as well, headline seeking, because that's all we wanted, was a dignified disposal of the right of the unborn child, a dignified resting place. When we have such controversy and such costs and such and rightful disgust of what happens in Tuam and elsewhere. And I couldn't understand why, with this simple amendment, we could be undermined and accused of, that's just to show you the intolerance, or the so-called tolerance people. That's all we asked for in this amendment, and that's all we're still asking for. As I said, it's very similar to what they have in the UK. Very similar. In actual fact, it's a tad or slightly milder than what they have over there. And we make no apology for putting it down. We put it down in good faith, like all the rest of the amendments were put down in good faith. And we didn't hog the proceedings on them either, and we didn't have the numbers. And indeed, we were very limited numbers, but the Bills office, and I'm not criticising, that's the way they have to do it, added to some of them because they were divided up into 2 and 3 and 4 amendments, some of our amendments. We were very mindful of the need to have a short and concise debate. We kept the amendments to a minimum. Many of us spoke to a minimum. Deputy Tobin put on the record this evening that up to this evening 50,000 words had been spoken, and people who were saying we were filibustering, so they turned out to be filibustering the pro-Shy side themselves. So look, Shinny, Mokain, Cormac,